Big Dumb Movie is a comedic podcast that often contains obscene language and outlandish commentary. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to Big Dumb Movie, where we discuss movies of the big dumb variety. I'm your host, Korey, and I have two guests with me. First up, from out of the wasteland, you know him, you love him, Stevie.
Hello.
Hello. And next, he's bad, he's beautiful, he's crazy. He's the Pappy with no name.
Pappy with no name, but who's dressed like Auntie for some reason. All ready to go. I got hoops in. I got my bag showing. I look good.
You're dressed like a cat burglar.
Thank you.
Thank you, Spoilers Boys, for being here. Of course, our audience knows Pappy and Stevie are from the Spoilers Podcast, a podcast that I'm also on. But we're here on Big Dumb Movie today, and we're here to talk about Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, the 1985 George Miller Mad Max movie, third in the series, also known as the PG-13 one in some circles. So with that in mind, I kind of want to kick off this conversation talking about franchises that started off as like an R-rated movie, preferably like an hard R, and then kind of devolved into the family-friendly PG-13 sequel, which we'll talk about it, but, you know, is kind of what happened here. You got the first Mad Max movie, rated R. You got the second Mad Max movie, awesome fucking movie, rated R as well. And then Beyond Thunderdome, clearly the more kid-oriented film. I'm going to start with you, Pappy. Do you have any kind of like examples like this? Because I got some, but I'm going to save them for now.
Yeah, I mean, the most obvious one to me is that we did a podcast over on CineStudy about the Terminator franchise. Talk about a hard R movie. That is a very intense horror movie where the franchise starts. And then it just gets so bad, so over the top, so silly, so like, I don't know. It really devolves, but was the most recent one R? So it came back to R and that didn't save it. So it might just be a franchise beyond saving. Like, I don't know. I don't think there's a good example of this ever. Like, I feel like once you go hard R, you can't go back.
No, absolutely. Terminator 3, of course, was the movie that was the first in that franchise that went to PG-13. I don't know, it's kind of a weird place to be, right? Because you would think if a movie's PG-13, it would be more accessible and it will make more money. But, you know, every now and then, you get a Deadpool or whatever it is, and especially in the 80s, too, these hard R movies, like, everyone saw them, even the kids, right? The parents just took their kids. They didn't give a fuck.
Even The Road Warrior, I feel like, was well seen, you know, by kids. Like, there's a lot of movies where The Road Warrior is a poster on some 80s kid's wall.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. I think Road Warrior is like one of those movies that stretches across both Gen X and millennials. It's like something Gen Xers shared with their millennial children. So both kind of generations love it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to give my example. There is a franchise that is not very good, but it has a very special place, right? And I'll get into that. It's The Expendables. The Expendables was a movie that came out, right? There was just one movie, Sylvester Stallone, Jason Statham, all these, older action stars made appearances. Some to varying degrees. Arnold Schwarzenegger's like in it for a little while. Bruce Willis is in it again for a little while. That movie was a rated R, and it was, I think, okay. Like, it's not a great movie, it's fine. But they made Expendables 2, also rated R, and that movie fucking rules. That's the one with Jean-Claude, Stevie. Expendables 2 is a fucking dope action movie. It maintains the R rating, and it basically just, like, ramps up every component of the Expendables. It, like, brings in the big superstars for longer. They actually get some good action scenes. The stakes are bigger. Everyone's involvement is, like, a little bit deeper. And in the first movie, it's, like, kind of more cameos. And the second movie does have one particular cameo, but it's played very well. I mean, I can't help but watch that scene and smile.
This your team?
Yeah. Gunner, Toll Road, Hail Caesar, and Maggie.
Booker. You're the one people call a lone wolf?
I've been called that.
but I have mellowed.
Not that much. I heard another rumor that you were bitten by a king cobra.
Yeah, I was. But after 5 days of agonizing pain, the cobra died.
Of course, I'm talking about the Chuck Norris scene. Expendables 2 is not talked about at all for some reason, but I think it's a really good action movie. And then Expendables 3 came out, and that was the PG-13 one, and that franchise just lost any fucking balls that it had. Like, it was just like a neutered version of what I had come to expect of the Expendables, of Sly Stallone, of all these kind of has-been action stars like back in the game. It did the thing where it brought in like the newer crowd, but the older crowd had to come save them. But there's like no blood in that movie. It's just bullshit. So my kind of example of that, you know, it's very similar to Mad Max in a way. I think they line up. Like the first one, you know, I guess it's a good way to start things, I guess. The second one, fucking great. The third one, it's like, okay, now what are you doing here? You had a good thing fucking going. But Stevie, it's your turn. I'm going to toss it over to you. Do you have any kind of examples of this?
Well, I have an explanation for what happened to Beyond Thunderdome and why it's rated PG-13. But an example for me for this is, I mean, the original features one of my all-time favorite actors, which is Keanu Reeves. Like, Speed just fucking rules. That's an awesome movie. Like with Jeff Daniels, Dennis Hopper, Keanu Reeves, Sandra Bullock making her, you know, kind of breakthrough role. And then you go to Speed 2, Cruise Control.
Oh yeah, Cruise Control. I forgot about that one.
Such a funny subline.
Not only is it such a worse product by far, no Keanu, it's on a cruise ship, which, hey, nothing screams speed like a cruise ship.
Those things fly, dude.
Cruise control.
Cruise control, but also it's PG-13. Like, you took this awesome movie that just ruled. I mean, rated R movie, it's violent. You know, they're swearing left and right. Like, it's a great movie. Then you drop down to Speed 2, which not only is it a worse product, but you made it PG-13. It made absolutely no sense. It's a hard movie to watch.
You know what's weird about the R rating? It's like kind of a sign of quality.
It is.
Because like when's the last time a PG-13 movie won Best Picture? Like maybe Everything Everywhere All at Once, but it's not like...
Wasn't that rated R?
Probably. I don't know. I can check, but it's... I don't know. It's like when a movie's rated R, it's like, okay, it's standing on business. Like, this is a movie.
This is a piece of art.
When it's PG-13, it's like, nah, we're just... this is a product.
This is a product. I like that.
Yeah, that's kind of well said. I mean, Everything Everywhere was rated R. You know, I for a long time thought that it got the Oscar on the basis of it taking place in Simi Valley. But what do I know, you know?
Probably, yeah.
No, the reason, like, I think... I mean... I've heard numerous directors say this is the 80s was like the death of actual cinema and storytelling. I'm a firm believer that Beyond Thunderdome was rated PG-13, not because of George Miller wanted a PG-13 movie or didn't want violence, just the simple fact that a studio wouldn't make it unless it was PG-13. I firmly believe that.
Yeah. I mean, it's got...
Every movie has to have a happy ending. 70s movies had balls, like, left and right. They actually had balls to do stuff. 80s movies really dialed back, much more family-friendly, must have a happy ending. That's the 80s.
When you go from R to PG-13, you betray part of your soul in the franchise, and it feels this way, like, big time in this movie.
I have heard that argument as well, Stevie. I think Tarantino likes to make that argument too. But
Scorsese as well.
When I think of 80s movies, at least the ones that I know about, the ones that I like, right, a lot of them are pretty fucking crazy. Like Total Recall, you know, a lot of Schwarzenegger movies, honestly. Predator, The Terminator, Road Warrior, and some Stallone movies too. But like, I think of the kind of 80s action, but that might just be because that's the style of movie that I was into from the 80s. You know, some Van Damme movies, right? You know, you got the Kumite Bloodsport. You know, I don't think that movie is a neutered anything. I think it's pretty hardcore. But I'm not super big on 80s movies, so I do have like a big gap from the 80s. It's really not my era.
It starts in 90 and goes
It starts in 90 and goes on. Starts at Point Break and moves up.
Yeah.
It starts at Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie.
It's like when you gain consciousness.
Now, Stevie, you're our resident person named Steven on this podcast.
I am.
So I'm going to toss a question to you that would normally go to someone else, but you're the man this time around.
I'll take it.
So I ask Stevie, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, how the hell was this movie made?
This movie was made in the most unfortunate way. George Miller was making a Lord of the Flies movie, or trying to develop a Lord of the Flies movie, and eventually landed on, these kids, the Lord of the Flies, are going to have an older savior come and rescue them, and they're going to kind of band together and, reignite society. And he decided halfway through, either writing the script or trying to get it greenlit, that what if that older person was Max from Mad Max? First big mistake we could ever think of. Secondly, this is such either a debunked part, or this is kind of half true, half not true. In pre-production and scouting, one of George Miller's best friends, who's also a producer of this film, passed away in a helicopter accident. I think his name was Byron Kennedy. That led to what I would say kind of the downfall of this movie. I'm not going to say I know what George Miller's mind was going through, but I don't think it helped, for the simple fact that Byron Kennedy is also considered one of the co-creators of Mad Max in the series itself. And to its detriment, this is kind of the part that people say it's either half true, 100% true, not true at all. You guys will notice on the credits of this that there's another gentleman's name for a co-director, right?
Yeah.
I think his last name is Ogilvy.
Yeah, another George Ogilvy.
George Ogilvy. So he had worked with George Miller before in a couple series in Australia. And the story that's always been kind of floated through was, George Miller was not in the best state to direct these movies. After Byron died, he kind of didn't want to be a part of them anymore. He decided to do this, but halfway through wasn't kind of feeling it. So there's all these stories about how much input was for what. The kind of simple way is George Miller directed all the action in this movie, but all the rest was directed by George Ogilvy. And then, George Miller came out a few years ago and said, no, George and I worked together for the entire shoot, and we both directed every scene together.
Bullshit.
I call horseshit on that. Yeah, this movie, and it also didn't help that it was made in the 80s, especially during the mid-80s, during the time of must have happy ending and not as much violence. It just, I think, was kind of dead before it ever got off the ground, especially with kind of George's passion for this project. And, he'll say, it's not that I was in a funk, it's just I wanted to make a more cerebral story. It's more, less violence and this, that, and the other. I just think this movie was doomed from the start once Byron passed away. Because, that's one of George's best friends and one of his co-collaborators. And once you lose something like that in a project like this, it can really lose its way fast.
It doesn't surprise me when you said that this almost wasn't a Mad Max movie, because in many ways it doesn't need to be a Mad Max movie in so many ways. He could literally be the captain guy who comes back.
He could have been Walker. You just could have called it
Captain
Walker. Yeah, it'd have been fine.
Yeah.
Walker Wasteland Ranger. That was what this was going to be.
Yeah. So that's kind of the story of pre-production, where it was kind of just shaky getting off the ground. You can even tell with the character Jedediah, played by Bruce Spence.
Yeah.
Not even he really knows if he's the same guy or not from Mad Max 2. He says he is, but also says he isn't. Like I said, there's parts of this movie that I absolutely love because it transitions to what I love about Mad Max so well. But there's a good 60 minutes of this movie that I do not enjoy at all. And I'm sure we're going to touch on it, but like Pap said, this didn't really need to be a Mad Max movie, and it would have been fine, I think.
I have a question for you, Korey, because we just did a podcast on Furiosa. Stevie's seen Furiosa, and we were like, the cool thing about Mad Max is they're all individual stories. I feel like based on what Stevie just said, it feels like George Miller has just been winging this shit the whole time. And if he wanted to have an interconnected universe, he just hadn't thought about it. You know what I mean? It's not like he chose to make this.
His interview about Fury Road and the press junkets bought him a lot of time with that, which is these are campfire stories. They're not connected. Yeah. They stand alone on their own things, but it's also but it's a similar and same world.
Where similar things happen every time.
Similar things happen every time, but when you remove DNA from themes. When you remove car chases from a Mad Max movie and really neuter it down to one car chase, it's not really a Mad Max movie at that point. You got to have cars. You got to have chases. You got to have that engine roar.
That is definitely a staple.
Yeah.
And I think, the Byron Kennedy situation I think you're right. That probably impacted this in a big way because, apparently rumor has it that he was like as involved as George Miller in those first two movies, right? So he was a
100%,
huge creative force involved in the Mad Max franchise. So without him, it becomes something very different. And then there's other complications as well. It'd be like if Pappy passed away, Stevie, and like you were asked to do more spoilers.
I try to ruin spoilers.
Right? It's like, would your
to.
heart really be in it kind of thing? You'd probably have Josh co-direct.
You better do all the movies I have in my letterbox list or I'll haunt your ass until you do those podcasts. A very long tribute to me.
Yeah, like on a situation like that, though, you're right. It's like, are you really in it at that point? It's like, I just lost like what is considered probably like one of my great colleagues, one of my best friends. Like, how much do I really like want to do this?
But that's a really shitty time to have that realization when it's like, hey, we're giving you the biggest check that you've had so far in your career.
Yeah.
And like, we want this to be an international action hit. And when there are some good bones, there's some really good shit in this movie. It's like, it's so close.
The first 40 is so good.
And let's talk about the beginning of this movie. I'm going to go to you, Pappy. Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome opens up in very classic Mad Max fashion, in my opinion. Or at least what has become classic Mad Max fashion. But why don't you tell us about what we see here at the beginning?
Yeah, so it is very classic Mad Max faction in that he's kind of losing what he has and just kind of wandering the desert at the beginning. Like, we really don't know where he was going or what he was doing. What I like about this one, though, is that he has a, I don't know, what would you call it, like a 6 camel power vehicle, like literal camels.
Stagecoach?
Yeah, like a stagecoach with camels, which is amazing. He looks very, like, Middle Eastern in his dress, too. And I heard on a couple of YouTube videos that there's shot-for-shot similarities with Lawrence of Arabia to where it's like it's framed the exact same way and everything.
Apparently the same composer as well.
Yep.
Yeah. But this is where it gets a little confusing in that Bruce Spence is once again airborne out there. And he's got a little super annoying Australian kid with him. And they basically run this prank where they shoot at Max, and like he's got to dodge out of the way, and then they hijack his camel vehicle, leaving Max alone in the desert.
Now you're going straight on, son.
Pretty good start. I'm not gonna lie, I like it a lot. It looks cool.
I know, it's kind of funny, even in this like version of Mad Max where he's like more of a superhero than he ever has been. Like, he's still getting fucked with in the beginning, like in the very opening scene, you see this guy, like, things are not going good for him. People tend to fuck him over. It's funny too, because Bruce Spence pranks him in the second movie as well. If you remember, he has like a little trap rigged up where he kind of like pops out of the ground and holds him up at gunpoint.
Don't hurt the snake! Put it down! Gently. Nice. Now the arm. The gun. Down. Turn around.
So, fucked over by this guy again, but not the same character officially as the gyrocopter pilot in the second Mad Max movie. Jedediah here. I'd like to think of him as like his twin brother, though,
That's so
Twin scumbags.
Dad left us an airplane and a helicopter. We're going to split them up and go our separate ways.
Yeah, 2 pilots. Maybe there's a few of them out there,
I would be neglect to mention that this movie actually starts off, Korey, with a Tina Turner jam. What a great song. Like, I hope it's playing. Why not?
Why?
It's the 80s, bro.
Because you have Tina Turner. You don't like the song?
Not in that part, no. I like the song, but it's not in the very beginning of the movie. It's so odd.
I think she should have sang it in the Thunderdome.
You might as well just put a saxophone in the credits, dude. It's just weird.
Korey, you're a notable fan of music. This is a jam, right? This is a great song.
I'm not saying it's not a jam. It's just in a weird part of the movie.
I'm gonna be honest, it gives a weird vibe for this movie. But like any song that's super 80s in a movie to me feels weird. Even taken back to like Batman 89 with like the Prince music, part of me slightly cringes when I hear it.
We all know you hate Prince. You brought that up on Purple Rain.
I respect the hell out of Prince. I don't like his music.
But Tina Turner's music is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Tina Turner's song in the beginning is One of the Living, and then she has the other song. I think it's slightly more famous for this movie, We Don't Need a Hero, which is like, I think at the very end credits. But Mad Max kind of loses all his possessions, mostly except for what's on his person, right? He has a team of camels kind of pulling along the Interceptor. The car, I believe, is underneath that. And he follows the trail, and he ends up in a place called Bartertown. Stevie, why don't you tell us about like his first interaction there in Bartertown?
Oh, when he's set up to die? I mean, so when he gets to Bartertown, it's actually really neat. I don't know, it's a trope that I didn't like, part of Max, for the simple fact that one of the cool things about, I think, every Mad Max story is he loses his right arm in every beginning of the movie. You know, he loses his superpower to kind of be, and you see him just kind of grow throughout each movie. So I liked it when he got all of his weapons taken away when he's turning them in to be in the town itself before he goes to see Auntie Entity. And he's like pulling out every weapon left and right.
Yeah, it's almost like a gag. Like how many
It's almost a gag how many weapons he had. I'm like, that's not Max. Like, he's lost at least 4 of those before this. But it's kind of an odd thing when we go through the town. I mean, there's definitely a lot of shoulder pads, a lot of mohawks, a lot of black and red, kind of the staples of what George was doing in especially in Mad Max 2, with how everyone looked with like Lord Mungus and his crew. And you kind of get to this town and a lot of the same. And as he's being taken up to, meet Auntie, you see kind of some weird stuff like, I mean, there's some cool diegetic music, I guess if a guy's playing a saxophone in this, but for the Wasteland, that saxophone looks awfully shiny.
Yeah.
Really shiny. And then I guess his test is to kill 4 guys who are trying to kill him after, Auntie Entity introduces herself. So that's his test. And it looks neat. I guess the choreography of that looks neat, but it's also kind of odd to see, I don't know, Max be kind of like a kung fu or fighting master. It's weird.
Yeah, I want to talk about a couple of the things you mentioned there.
Yeah, it's just odd. Like, even outside the Thunderdome, it's just weird seeing Max, like, kind of being, I think he's not an action hero, but he's not like a, an all-out fighter or
close combat
type guy. He's... roll out that sawed-off shotgun on a close-up and go. Like, that's Max. Like, this just feels kind of odd.
What are you trading?
I'm looking for someone.
You got anything to trade or not?
He was driving a team of camels.
People come here to trade. Make a little profit, do a little business. Got nothing to trade, you got no business in Bartertown.
Now we're on the inside, that's all.
Next.
I got skills I can trade in.
Sorry, the brothel's full.
One hour.
If you find him, what then?
I'll ask him to return what's mine.
Oh, and of course he'll be desperate to clear his conscience.
He will be.
You that good?
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps you've got something to trade after all.
Keep talking.
24 hours of your life. In return, you'll get back what was stolen.
Sounds like a bargain.
It's not. Let's talk. Come inside.
I talked about like Mad Max being like the superhero version of himself in this movie, and I think that's seen in a lot of places, right? When we see him unload his weaponry, that's kind of an example of that. But even like before that, right, we get like the Indiana Jones joke where like he pulls a gun on someone and some guy comes up with like knives and is like doing all kinds of like fancy shit with him, and he like blows off his hat or whatever. He like shoots it off his head.
Yeah.
It's like all the feathers are flying in his face. That joke is well overused, but I don't even know if this is like predates that or not. But either way, Max here is in this new place, and this is a place we haven't really seen in a Mad Max movie. It's now been verified in the canon of this movie that it's post-nuclear, and, you know, it's like a trade town. And I think there's a lot of cool shit going on with the trade town. Like, this is what I think of when I think of a Mad Max movie, even before I saw Fury Road, right? If someone said, like, what's the Mad Max world like? I picture Bartertown. It's very significant, I think, in the Mad Max canon. What'd you think of seeing Bartertown, Pappy?
It feels like a Fallout New Vegas area. Like it's hard, like it feels like a Fallout level where you have like the wasteland and you're coming
Cafe.
in. Yeah, and like things like Atomic Cafe, which are almost like a pun, like Nuka-Cola or something like in Fallout, like that kind of vibe. I like the guy too who comes out. He's trying to sell water to everyone, and one of the things that Max just has on him is like a Geiger counter to test the water. Like that's cool. Like I really like it.
I love it, dude. He doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
You know, he just scans it and keeps walking.
Pure water! Clear water! Hey, step up, Smug. Let's get some dealing done. H2O, that's my go. Hey, don't you understand? It's just water. You can't live without it. What's a little fallout, huh? Have a nice day.
There is a very hard like visual aesthetic difference then between Bartertown and like Auntie's, I don't know what you call it, like penthouse suite area, where like there's a hard cut where like the music and like the color palette's totally different. But no, Bartertown itself, I freaking love it. Saxophone guy, you're right, a bit odd, but I kind of like it.
Saxophone is awfully shiny for being in the wasteland.
I mean, are you even a warlord if you don't have a blind Chinese dude in a diaper playing a saxophone?
Right, yeah. It's a sign of power.
And that's kind of like what she is, right? This is like a world of warlords as we see throughout the movies, right? You know, we got Humongous in the last movie. He's like a different type of warlord. Auntie Entity here is more about like creating kind of barbaric laws, but, you know, making sure everyone adheres to them.
There's a code in that town for sure, yeah.
And the code is the laws must rhyme. That's how.
They have to be puns. They have to rhyme and have to be puns.
Yeah.
If the crowd can't chant it, it's not even worth writing, you know?
Right,
But
yeah.
Mad Max gets his like audition up there in Entity's, I should just call her Auntie, in Auntie's like penthouse.
Yeah, Auntie. Yeah.
And you're right, he is a little bit too much here because he's just been kind of scrappy before this, right? He was never like the unstoppable superhero. He was just like a decent enough like fighter. Like he was like, I think his best ability was like the ability to take a beating. Now he's kind of like kung fuing everyone around, and it's a very watered down kind of hand-to-hand scene, but I think it still works. I think everything here mostly works.
A warrior, Auntie. Lost everything. Looking for a deal.
But he's just a raggedy man.
He's quick.
And Bob, do you think he can do it?
Maybe.
And what did you do before all this?
I was a cop, a driver.
But how the world turns. One day cock of the walk, next to feather dust. Play something Tun-Tun, something tragic. Do you know who I was? Nobody. Except on the day after, I was still alive. This nobody had a chance to be somebody. So much for history. Anyway, water? Fruit?
I liked it. Like there's lore around her too, or she's the one who she was nobody before and started this whole town, and like almost used the, what do they call it later? A pocket tops? What do the kids call it?
Oh yeah,
it's the most annoying name. But the nuclear apocalypse to like rise to power. Listen, I don't want to sound like a broken record, Korey, but first of all, having a music superstar in a movie like this should not work half as well as it does.
She's so cool.
Dude, Tina Turner is so good in this movie. Like, she's so awesome. But she's not asked to do a ton. You know, she doesn't have like any like ginormous monologues or like super villainy screams or anything like that. But she's got presence, dude. She looks awesome. I love her. I love her so much.
I love it too. I love the scene with Max and her right after the audition, and then the third guy, who I think is called the Collector, and they're kind of just explaining to Max like what they need him for. And he's like, we're dealing with subtleties here. And Max is like, you've got guns, you've got guys, just send the order. And that whole scene where it's just like the three of them in frame, I think is really fucking good.
Mm-hmm.
Max is just chomping away on a pear or whatever.
Look around, mister. All this I built. Up to my armpits in blood and shit. Where there was desert, now there's a town. Where there was robbery, there's trade. Where there was despair, now there's hope. It's a civilization. I'll do anything to protect it. Today is necessary to kill a man. What do you say?
What do you pay?
I'll re-equip you. Vehicles, animals. Fuel if you want. It's a generous offer.
Why me? You got warriors, you got weapons, you just give the order.
We are dealing with subtleties here.
This is no enemy. It's almost family.
Oh, I see. Real civilized.
The reasons don't concern you, just the conditions. Do you want the deal or not?
The first is that no one knows you're working for Auntie. You hit him, you go. The second is it's a fair fight. The third is it's to the death.
Who's the bunny?
But out of that scene, Pappy, comes a question. Max says, who's the bunny, right? Like, who's the target that they need to hire Max to take out? And Auntie shows him. She has like this cool kind of like, again, very Fallout periscope kind of device that shows Underworld. And just kind of as a quick side note, Fallout owes everything to this fucking franchise. Everything.
Big time.
I'm telling you, man. Especially
Big time.
Fallouts 1 and 2, which are really the only games I'm familiar with. Like, some of the sets of armor is intended to look exactly like Mad Max. But back to my question, Pappy. Who is it who's the mark here? Who's Max going to be sent after, and why?
Outside of the Thunderdome itself, the most memorable part of this movie, what I remembered from seeing it as a kid, is Master Blaster.
So cool.
And it's like, I don't know. There's a lot of this character in media. Like, it feels like it's its own trope. Like, I remember I read a book, I think it was by Jerry Spinelli, like what the kids author, Freak the Mighty. Whereas this aesthetic is, it's also kind of like, would you call it like an Of Mice and Men kind of vibe too, where you got like big strong guy and
Lenny and George.
yeah, but you got Master, who, for being the brains, speaks in really broken English sentences. It's very odd. Like, he's a very minimalist.
You can tell he's like an engineering major, but like not necessarily an English major.
Hearing wonky. Sounds like an order.
That's right.
Yelping Jesus. Him sad. Brain broken. Me explain. This my vehicle. You pedestrian. Drive on.
Ironically, too, I hadn't thought about this movie much at all, even with the new Mad Max movies. But when I worked in Colorado, there's an engineer on the first floor who had a big picture of Master Blaster in his cube, and I don't know why Steve is giving me the weirdest look right now. Yeah, it was very odd, but I thought about it every time I walked by. I would look at it. And Blaster's just this tank and he's got a covered head. We don't get to see his face.
There's a little bit of it in Fury Road too, with Rixus and his brother, who's like in that small chair.
It's like the Hodor Bran carrying contraption too from Game of Thrones, right? Where he's like in this little sling thing.
It's also they have a character like that in Mortal Kombat too, where it's a giant person and a small person, like in the newer Mortal Kombats as well. Like it's been done, but it's really cool.
But
in
it
this
works.
Movie.
Yeah.
It works. If there's one thing I could go back in time and tell George Miller, more Master Blaster. I understand that's like kind of like the linchpin between the the good parts of this movie and the bad parts, but like more Master Blaster.
Mm-hmm.
Call it Underworld. It's where Buttertown gets its energy.
What, oil, natural gas?
Pigs.
You mean pigs like those?
That's right.
Bullshit.
Pig shit.
What?
Pig shit. The lights, the motors, the vehicles, all run by a high-powered gas called methane. Methane comes from pig shit.
Have a look. Tell me what you see.
I see a big guy giving a little guy a piggyback.
Master Blaster. They're a unit. They even share the same name.
The little one is called Master. He's the brains. He runs Underworld. The other one is Blaster. He's the muscle. Together they can be very powerful.
And they are also arrogant.
We want to keep the brain, dump the body.
He's big. How good is he?
He can beat most men with his breath.
Yeah, Master Blaster is super memorable. When I was like in 5th grade or so, I saw this movie and then like worked in the character Master Blaster into one of my short stories that I wrote for school, for like your free writing assignments, like where he was the villain. And like, I just lifted that out of here and put him into his own story. Cause you're right. You should do more with this. Like there's something cool here. It changes too quickly. And we're going to talk about the change kind of in order here, but it's like, I'm loving this movie so far at this point. Like as a kid when I first saw it, and even now, like there's such greatness, and this movie is like paced so well at this part. Like the first 45 minutes are paced so incredibly well. Does not drag at all. No time is wasted.
And there's like, we'll see this in the later films in the franchise, but there's this political intrigue of like resource trading too, right? It's a big part of Master Blaster controls the methane gas. So he ostensibly then controls the town. And like the whole conflict is this like political, almost like optics based thing where it's like, well, Tina Turner, Auntie, doesn't want to be seen as subservient to this pig shit.
Lots of
freak.
ins, lots of outs.
Yeah,
a lot of what have yous.
It's good. Yeah, and it's simple. It gets there. Like it explains it within the film way better than I just did.
Yeah.
But it's good.
I mean, to quote Master himself, "Me King Arab."
Yeah.
Me order, me master, me run Bartertown.
Sure, that's why you live in shit.
Not shit, energy.
Call it what you like. Still smells like shit to me.
Not shit, energy. No energy, no town. Be King Arab.
Sure, be a fairy princess.
Embargo on.
And he kind of demonstrates his power, but just by putting an embargo on the town where he cuts off the power to kind of show who's in charge, to kind of swing his dick around a little bit. He likes to like prove to the people that he's really the one behind the scenes, not Auntie Entity. It's really like him that's in control. And she kind of hates him for that. Like everyone basically does that works for Auntie because, they want her to be like the one and only ruler and still have the power that he generates with the pig shit.
Mm-hmm. I'm not as good at this franchise's ins and outs as like I feel like you guys are, but isn't gas like actual fuel gasoline? It's like in basically all the other ones, right?
Yeah.
Isn't Road Warrior? That's like what they're
Gasoline.
Yeah. So it's this one's all, like there's no gas basically, right? Like is there?
Maybe in this town there's not. It's kind of like it's tribes.
Or there
right?
wouldn't be enough to.
There wouldn't. It's tribe. So like, a lot of like the towns throughout this universe are just tribal knowledge, right? You stick within the tribe and you kind of grow it from there.
Mm-hmm.
And then one tribe tries to take over another tribe. And I think like in this tribe, they're not in that kind of like guzzling era where that's like currency. Right? Yeah.
I mean, like Bartertown feels like the nicest village that we see in any Mad Max movie. Like if you had
besides
to
the Green Place,
besides the Green Place, this would be where I'd want to live. Like,
for sure.
I mean, it's still kind of like a wretched hive of scum and villainy in its own way, right? Because the rules there are pretty fucking ruthless. And ultimately, Auntie's ruthless.
Yeah.
It reminds me a little bit of what's that sport movie we did in the Australia?
Blood of the
Heroes?
Jugger? Yeah.
Jugger?
Yeah.
It always reminded me of Thunderdome. Always did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I want to get a closer look at him. How do I get in there?
It's a factory, isn't it? Ask for work.
I don't know anything about methane.
You can shovel shit, can't you?
So Stevie, before Max kind of fully agrees to the deal, he wants to go down to what they call Underworld, where the pig farm is, and he wants to kind of like scope out his competition. Like, you know, he goes to see up close and personal who's Master Blaster. That's where we get the embargo scene. But like, what's Max really trying to do down there? Because he has like a very specific goal, which comes up later.
He's trying to find a weakness, which ends up being that dog whistle for Blaster.
Which I gotta say, pretty well set up from the beginning too.
Because he has it.
And they show it early.
And they reveal it, and it's pretty awesome. I just like in that scene when he goes into the underworld, you guys kind of talk about, you know, Master's broken English at this point. Where like he's kind of going around his car and they see like dynamite and trying to undo all these things. And you really reveal that kind of just... George has been doing this forever, but I just like seeing that Max only says his name one time in this movie. Which he was like, me Master, who you? And he's like, me Max. Like it's
almost like mocking him.
It's a great reveal. It's a great reveal to that point. And like you're right, you get that weakness of like the dog whistle and how it just sets off Blaster. And you know, that's when we kind of like, this movie does a great job of like kind of laying out the rules of the town, right? It's like, how do we get to Thunderdome? Here's what you do. You know what I mean? It's not like, you know, how we get there is the important part. It's once we're in Thunderdome is where like all the tension is, and you feel it right away too.
Yeah, that whole prison scene, or not prison, I guess, like underbelly, because there are prisoners there, but it's very like bricktop too, right?
Oh yeah.
Like pigs are just kind of gross. There's just pigs everywhere, and like pig shit, and like some of them are prisoners.
Serving life, 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like one of those scenes you're like really glad you can't smell the environment, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Aye. We got a real problem. 12 pounds of dynamite, all set to blow.
Problem? You expert? Disarm!
Right. It's a class job. One mistake, it'll blow the crap out of this place. Literally.
Think what to do.
Now, the dynamite's connected to the timing device, which is connected to the switch, which I can't find, which is connected to the battery. I'll disconnect the battery.
I wouldn't do that if I were you.
Who you?
Me, Max.
You smart.
That's my vehicle.
Disarm.
There's a guy in there called Blackfinger. He's the guy that's trying to like disable the rigged bomb explosive that's attached to Max's car. And I love that dude. He's not in the movie a lot, but he's like just a classic Mad Max side character in the same way that like from Furiosa, there's a guy called Smeg. Like those two are very similar to me. Just like a kind of weaselly side character that kind of thinks he knows what he's talking about, but is really just winging it. And he's just like a lowly henchman. Doesn't have a lot of action, but like kind of a great addition to the world as a whole.
It's kind of like the organic mechanic. You like those guys, right?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I love the organic mechanic. All things
awesome.
therapeutic.
Yeah.
Master Blaster! Listen to the law!
Auntie, two men in dispute.
He's our witness, Auntie. A suffer ban. A sworn justice. We want Thunderdome.
You know the law. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves.
This blaster, 20 men enter, only him leaves.
Then it's your choice. Thunderdome.
So Max does agree to this deal, and what he has to do is face off against the big man himself, Blaster. And the rules of this society are that anytime you try to fight someone, you are forced to fight that person one-on-one to the death. So I guess that's kind of like how they keep things like clean in their town. Like there can't just be a fight that breaks out. If you try to fight someone, you have to fight them to the death, which probably means there's not very many fist fights that go on, right?
Mm-hmm. When it's like it's really digging into the lore of like how the world is the way it is too, right? Because that's part of it. Where I love that guy too, by the way, with the Kane or whatever, who explains the rules of what's happening at any of these given events. He's like the game show host of the Dome and the wheel. Like he's like, all right, let me get out my wheel.
7:30, Jeopardy's on. Let's watch Thunderdome.
Yep.
And right now, I've got 2 men. 2 men with a gut full of fear. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying times here. He's the ball cracker, death on foot. You know him, you love him. He's Blaster! Direct from out of the wasteland. He's bad, he's beautiful, he's crazy. It's the man with no name.
It's just pretty cool. 2 men enter, 1 man leave. That's like the most famous.
I feel like we grew up with that quite a lot in our lives.
It's beyond me. Yeah. It's the most known thing from this whole movie.
That quote, 2 men enter, 1 man leaves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like they used to say it on like Sports Center and stuff too. Like we would say it to each other.
All the time.
Yeah.
And I think Thunderdome is a little different each time. There's like a hint at that when the collector says it's up to chance, right? Because Max asks, are there going to be weapons involved? So, Stevie, I'm hoping you can tell us about like what's involved in this particular iteration of Thunderdome, which is Max, aka the man with no name, versus Blaster.
So this reminds me a lot of, I can't even remember if they were out at the time. It reminds me a lot of American Gladiators in a way, right?
Yeah, big time.
I feel like there's big Gladiator vibes here. Like, I can't remember which one came first. I have to imagine Thunderdome did. But this is cool, man. You got 2 guys tied to cables that are literally launching across this giant cage dome with a crowd standing all around us chanting everything like the Catholic Church, right? I mean, it's a lot of like priest says something, Catholic Church says it back, right?
And with your spirit.
And with your chainsaws too. Like, I mean, like that is cool.
Mm-hmm.
You have weapons being passed around the cage, kind of like power-ups, like you'd see in a video game.
Oh,
like you gotta jump to here to get the power up.
Yeah, grab a weapon.
Grab a weapon. Like that is cool.
Equip the weapon in your right hand. Yeah.
Like you're talking about like pre-CGI. Like the blocking of this fight scene is amazing. The choreography is so cool.
Yeah.
You have so much at stake here. You have a chainsaw, you have a giant, what do you call that long staff with the blade on the end? I can't even think of it.
Spear type thing?
Kind of like a scythe, but not a scythe. Yeah, I forget what they're called. And you have, you know, what you think's going to happen doesn't, which is Mel Gibson, you know, rattling off the dog whistle. Mm-hmm. Drops it for 10 minutes, gets his ass kicked.
Mm-hmm.
You have this great scene where, you know, Blaster is charging with that sword and kills somebody in the crowd. which should have been way more violent in my opinion.
That would have been awesome.
Just to see blood spray into the crowd.
Or give a shot like through his brain, you know what I mean?
God,
like falls back, and someone else just takes his place.
Someone takes his place, just cheering, like showing the barbarianism, how barbaric the society truly is. Like so much at stake here.
The fact that Blaster's bungees get cut at one point, and it's a huge advantage for Max. And he's just doing flippy doos over him.
Oh yeah, he's flying around. I mean, then his get cut as well. It's just this whole thing, and he eventually gets that dog whistle, which is kind of brings me back to a point. Kind of want to go back in time. Max Rokitansky's story arc is complete in the first 2 movies, right?
I mean, within each movie.
Within each movie, so number 1 loses his humanity. Number 2 regains humanity. Mm-hmm. Where do we go from here, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of he's kind of at odds with himself going through this land, which makes sense. But Pap, I'll kind of let you do the linchpin to how we get into the next part. But it's a pretty wild scene.
Yeah, I mean the one thing I'll say too is before we talk about that is this shit's too good to be at this point in the movie and to not see it again, right?
Yeah.
And I think you hinted at it maybe this particular fight was by chance, and that maybe it's not always a bungee fight, but there should have been some kind of tournament. And I know that now I'm totally changing what this movie is, but we got to come back to this more than once. Or Max sees 2 other people fighting.
It's called Thunderdome.
This can't be the only Thunderdome scene. It's so by far the best thing in this movie, and it's almost why the second half is. If the second half was the first half and it ended with this somehow, you totally
it's a little different.
All of a sudden, this is a better movie. Because then I'm not as bored, waiting for the Thunderdome to never come back. It's too good. But the linchpin, Stevie, that you were mentioning, honestly, a pretty shocking reveal.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Does that actor? Does he really have special needs?
He looks like Sloth.
Yeah, I don't know the story there, but nothing is said. But once his mask is sent flying across the Thunderdome and we see his face, everything is understood, right? By Max, by the audience, by Master, right? Who's now coming back and seeing things honestly, it says a lot about Max as a character too, that he doesn't
still hold on to that humanity. Mm-hmm. Still holding.
It's good, Korey. This shit's just so good. I love it so much. It's one of the best scenes in any Mad Max movie, I would even say. This particular Thunderdome sequence.
I know, despite it being PG-13, I don't think it's that much of a hindrance. It would be cool to have a little bit more, but I really like Thunderdome. I like the moment when Max gets the superior weapon, when he gets a chainsaw, which is almost as good as having a gun at this point, right? He gets a fucking chainsaw, but the fucker won't start. And then it does.
Stalls.
And it's okay, it's over. The fucking Blaster is screwed now that Max has the chainsaw. But that lasts for about 2 seconds, and then Blaster has the upper hand again. And it's cool, just the progression of this fight. I actually do like that it's early on in the movie, because it's okay, well, this has happened. What's next in this movie? Where's it going to go from here? And I would think that in a better movie, it would end on a superior version of this Thunderdome fight, right? And kind of be set with car chases in between. But we'll get to that in a sec. I just want to say that I really like what they give us with Thunderdome, same as you guys. And I think it's great until, Mad Max hesitates to kind of give the kill. And I understand why. He's a hero. It's kind of like Mad Max, the folk hero in this, right? More of a folk hero than he was before. It was kind of like a myth, a wandering legend in the Road Warrior. And in this one, he's, again, more of a hero.
You know the law.
It's a Thunderdome! Shoot him! No! No! Look at his face! He's got the mind of a child! It's not his fault. Lester, I'm sorry. Everything...
This wasn't part of the deal.
Deal? What do you mean, deal?
You must have tasted it. It was in your hands. You had it all.
I'm talking to you. What do you mean, deal? No more methane. This place finished.
No, little man. We've only just begun.
Oh no. 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 No.
But he doesn't want to kill this guy. This guy is, he's not all there mentally, and he just doesn't want to be the one to do that. It doesn't seem fair, right? It doesn't seem like this guy went into this fight of his own volition. He just kind of does what he's told.
Mm-hmm.
So, not exactly a fair situation. This is where things get a little bit confusing in terms of this fight, because Auntie, she's like, all right, the deal's off. They execute Blaster. They shoot him with some arrows from the stands. And then Master jumps into the ring. And I think the audience wants Max to then kill Master. Am I reading that wrong? Because Max is trying to get out, but Master's the one that's alive, that is in there.
Mm-hmm.
And they keep saying 2 men enter, 1 man leave.
Enter, 1 man leaves.
There's like a very specific rule to this. There can't be 2 people alive inside of this at the same time.
Yeah. But there's 3 men in here. Isn't that a problem? Can 2 men leave? Is it just that 1 man has to die, or is it that only 1 man can leave?
2 men enter, 1 man leaves. That's it. That's all they know.
That's the rule.
You heard the chanting.
Break the deal, spin the wheel. Yeah.
You heard chanting. No, this, everything up to this point in the movie is amazing to me. Everything. Like when you get after Thunderdome, it's like, damn, that was good.
Yeah.
Then it just goes way off the rails. And I have a second of ideas of how do I fix this movie? But this movie goes sideways quick.
There might be something too with Blaster. They say he has a mind of a child, and obviously where we're about to go with this gets way more children based and protecting children and that whole thing. So it's maybe that's something that he was trying to touch on, and with the feral child and the last one too.
Mm-hmm.
There's something there, but I don't know. I can't speak.
You talking about Mathemes?
Mathemes? I don't think so. Actually, I think they're just kind of winging it.
What's this? You think I don't know the law? Wasn't it me who wrote it? And I say that this man has broken the law. Right or wrong? We had a deal. And the law says, bust the deal, face the wheel.
Bust the deal and face the wheel.
I'm still into the movie at this point, but Mad Max is basically screwed. He has broken the deal with Auntie because he didn't kill Blaster as he agreed to. So the crowd has another thing to chant, which is bust the deal, face the wheel. And Max is kind of taken alongside that game show host to this big wheel they've created where, in Bartertown, it's a town of deals, right? So there has to be a rule if someone doesn't go through with the deal they've agreed to. And unfortunately, that's Max in this position. So they have this big wheel, and these are the options that you can land on with the wheel. I'm going to read them off.
Dude, so funny. Good.
One of them is underworld. One of them is life imprisonment. One of them is hard labor. As far as I'm concerned, those are all the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Those are all the same.
No, it's like a time card. You're free to leave. You just have to do 8 hours of hard labor
there you go.
a day. You're not imprisoned.
Yeah.
I think if you land on any of those, you're in the same position as Pig Killer in this movie, right?
Yeah.
Underworld, life imprisonment, hard labor. Those are all, they all amount to the same thing within this society.
Mm-hmm.
The other ones are Auntie's Choice.
Ooh.
Death. Spin again, which is completely pointless.
That's so funny. That's the best one. Spin again. Why? What would be the point of a spin again? It's not a board game. There's no.
Yeah, I mean, there's really no benefit to spin again, I think.
We're trying to dole out justice as efficiently as possible.
Spin again. Reverse Uno card.
If you get 3 directly to jail, though, you're done.
Oh, yeah, 3 spin agains in a row, and there's a special rule. One of them's amputation. And then here's the 3 that are probably preferred. Forfeit goods.
Not bad. He's already done that.
Yeah.
Acquittal.
That's probably the best one.
Yeah.
So there is a chance that they just let you go.
That's the best one.
And then gulag, which could mean anything, right?
But isn't gulag forced labor? Like, isn't that all? Shouldn't that be the same? Because that's what he gets. But I think it should say exile.
In the context of their world, it means they put you on a horse backwards with your hands tied behind your back, and they put a paper mache pinata head on you.
You look like Frank from the Michael Fassbender movie. Yeah.
Yep.
And they put a little cup of water dangling from a stick at the end of the horse that you can't reach because you're tied up. It is very strange, but that's Max's fate.
I still don't understand how gulag means exile, but I'll let it.
I thought we were talking about the gulags. Like,
it would have been great if you got like a bunch of spin agains. That would have been awesome.
2 spin agains.
If you're putting it out there, just do it.
All our lives hang by a thread. Now we've got a man waiting for sentence. But ain't it the truth? You take your chances with the law. Justice is only a roll of the dice, a flip of the coin, a turn of the wheel.
And, you know, when he gets gulag, again, the crowd chants gulag. And these fucking guys just love to chant something, you know? Like, they have been trained by Auntie to chant certain things. So this is the 3rd time. And even as a kid, I'm like, God, they just chant everything. Gulag, gulag. We see Max get kind of sent off into the desert, and we spend a little bit of time in Bartertown without him. We just kind of see, like, what it looks like in Underworld without Blaster being present, which basically means they're kind of torturing the little guy. I think they're like threatening to feed him to pigs. Is that kind of what is going on there, Stevie?
Yes. Yeah, he was going to get bricked out pretty quickly.
Fix it. You run Bartertown. You fix.
They will go through bone like butter.
So they now have control. Auntie and her crew, they're running Bartertown. You know, they did Max pretty dirty here. They sent him off basically to die. But it's only 46 minutes into the movie, and Max doesn't die. And I say 46 minutes into the movie because this is a very specific turn, guys. The movie changes pretty starkly right here. Yeah. Pappy, what is it that happens? What happens to Max out there in the desert?
So just real quick too, I added this to a list I have on Letterboxd called the Smooshed Film. I feel like there's only a few examples of this, and mostly good. Things like Full Metal Jacket, or even Jaws, where it's like this is Sunshine, where these are 2 very different movies.
Yeah.
This movie goes from being a Mad Max action movie to fucking Hook, a Steven Spielberg like family
You're welcome.
adventure movie without as good of a score, Korey. I'll give you that. The score is not as good.
Thank you.
As Hook. But specifically, he is rescued. His horse dies, and he is rescued by a local Lost Boy girl, teenage girl, and drugged back to, what's the place called in Mad Max? The Green Place?
The Green Place, yeah.
Yeah, the Green Place. A place of abundance, as they say in Furiosa. A place of abundance.
Abundance? What's that mean?
cornucopia of quality, blah, blah, blah.
What's
that
quantity?
mean? Yeah.
A lot of stuff. A lot of good stuff.
I'm glad that we focus so much on the first half because there's so much to like celebrate and be like, dude, that's so awesome. And George Miller is so creative and that's so interesting. Everything about this is so grating and bad and weird.
Ethan, look. It's him. I pointed him. It's Captain Walker.
Honestly, Steve, I would say first and foremost, the way that they talk, it's like a Jar Jar Binks-esque affectation. There's a bunch of like Hisa and Wisa, and they don't say words that we know pre-apocalypse normally. Like they say like high scrapers and all that stuff. It's just
one of the first things that Savannah, who finds him, says is, "I finded him."
I finded him, yeah.
It's too much. It's Hook.
It's Hook. Like, even going back through like the entire lore of their community and them reciting everything and going through that, what's that thing called? What's that click thing called?
A Viewmaster?
It's like a Viewmaster.
Yeah, even going through that and them doing the Catholic Church rechant, like I have a real tough time with this section. It's hard.
This ain't no Tomorrow Morrow Land.
Yeah, Tomorrow Morrow. It's just hard.
It's so hard.
And I understand they're all children for the most part, and you wonder where a lot of this breeding is going to come from in the future, but it's still just hard.
The monologue of the history and lore is long.
It's so long.
It's like
so
3 or
boring.
4 or 5 minutes. Like, it's not short. It's like, I'm done. I don't care. Stop talking, please. What happened to Thunderdome? What happened to that cool movie I was just
understand
watching?
it's beyond Thunderdome. I didn't even go this far beyond it.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus.
Too far beyond.
Like, take me to the outer skirts. This is too far.
Can we return to Thunderdome?
Can it be called Return to Thunderdome? That'd be great. I mean, I'd watch
Mad
a movie.
Max at Thunderdome?
Yeah.
Sure, or just Mad Max Thunderdome.
Mad Max Thunderdome only.
I mean,
nothing else.
This movie is not Mad Max, and the thing that really kind of pisses me off is I understand that they kind of do a cool thing here with like the reluctant hero, but what really bothers me is the fact that like Mad Max is a stuff of legend, right? Like Max is a stuff of legend in the desert at this point.
Especially after Road Warrior. Like that's all it is. Like it's the feral child telling
this is
the story.
The stuff of fucking legend, man. I mean, this is Max roaming through like the nothing, roaming through the wasteland. I mean, he is like a god at this point through the wasteland. The fact that like the kids didn't say like, you know, Max, you were the one we were told that was going to save us. That's like a reluctant hero to me.
Like have it be actually Max?
Like have it be like we were told like a man named Max would save us one day. Like that's like the reluctant hero to him, not like be like, I'm not Walker, so I'm not going to do this.
Well,
like,
even like their shitty backstory doesn't make any fucking sense. It's like
what the plane crashing.
They all got in a plane crash, and there for some reason there's just a fuck ton of kids, and like
the parents all died.
All of the parents either like met Mr. Death or however they fucking say it, or left them in this place. Like why there no parents stayed behind, no adults, like not even like 4 to like keep the population going. Like what is supposed to be happening here? Like you just want to do Lord of the Flies too badly. Like just it doesn't need to be that. It's not Peter Pan. I hate it.
This ain't one body's story. It's the story of us all. We got it mouth to mouth, so you gotta listen it and remember. Because what you hears today, you gotta tell the birthed tomorrow. I'm looking behind us now, across the count of time, down the long hall, into history back. I sees the end, what with the start. It's pox eclipse full of pain.
So I gotta say, the tone does change here, and it's most notably
a little goofy
with the music, right? The music even changes. I like the Bartertown theme song, where it's kind of like cool and creepy, very Fallout, And then the score just becomes completely different for the rest of the movie, including in the action scenes that we'll talk about later on. But it starts here, I think. And like you said, it gets very Hook, right? The 1991 Hook, Steven Spielberg movie. I think Steven Spielberg saw this movie and said, there's something that could work there.
We can make that.
Yeah.
If we did it totally different, right? In a different environment. Obviously, it's a very direct play on the Lost Boys, right? Tomorrowland is something they say, which is, of course, a Neverland reference. That predates Hook, right? That just goes back to the original story. But the Hook stuff in this movie, it even has Max hanging upside down, one foot on being like strung up by a rope, which happens to Robin Williams. They repeat the things he says back to him, except, in Hook, it's like played for comedy, and you have Robin Williams, like obviously a comedian in there, so it works a little bit better. And there's also a Rufio guy. A Rufio guy swings down, and in this movie, his name is Slake. And
that's so true.
He's the one that starts the tell, which is the story of how they got there, and it's taken over by Savannah. But you guys compared this to The Green Place, and this is very much like that, right? They're in a kind of oasis, and things are pretty good for them here, all things considered. Knowing the state of the rest of the world anyway.
Was heartful to you, Captain Walker.
We's ready now. Take us home.
We kept it straight. It's all there, ain't it? Everything marked, everything remembered.
Yeah, you kept it real good. You ain't been slack at all.
Well, what are we waiting for?
That ain't me. You got the wrong guy.
Quit joshing, Captain.
Hey, catch the wind.
We gotta see Tomorrowland.
Home!
Now, there were places like these, cities. They were called cities now. There's lots of them.
Cities.
And they had the knowing of a lot of things. They had skyscrapers and videos, and they had Sonic. You got it right.
Sonic.
But then this happened. This Pocky Eclipse happened, and it's all finished. It just isn't there anymore. So, you got to understand that this is home, and there's no Tomorrowland, and I ain't Captain Walker.
They have a monkey. They have water that's not contaminated. They have a war boy too, by the way. Which, that's so weird.
They have a war boy, man.
I have a fan theory that I've been waiting to talk about since I saw Fury Road. Because when I saw Fury Road, I made a lot of comparisons to this movie. Like Thunderdome, right?
It's so
the dome
similar.
itself is kind of similar to the vault that the wives live in the Citadel. There's like a broken down dome. I'd like to think that Immortan Joe kind of took over that and like repurposed it. But the kid, his name is Screw Loose in this movie. He looks like a war boy, right? That's the first thing you got to notice if you've seen Fury Road.
Exactly like a war boy. He even has a little painting of himself.
I'd like to think he's an escaped war boy.
Oh, he escaped the cult of V8?
Yeah, I like to think he was like a war pup that got separated and ran away.
Oh, I like that.
And the reason is because at least the first few times we see him, he is isolated among the other kids. He seems to have like some kind of trauma. Now, that stops at some point in the movie. It stops being that he's like the kid with trauma. He just kind of becomes like another cartoon character in the context of this movie. But in the beginning, he's kind of just like sitting in there and he sees like Max and he scurries away to his cave and he takes the one thing that he has, like one piece of comfort, which is an old busted Bugs Bunny doll, right? And it's like he has this little toy and it's like, I don't know, probably the last vestige of his regular life he had before. But yeah, I don't know. I like to think he was an escaped war pup. That's not canon at all, by the way.
I like that, Korey. That's such a cool idea, though. Like, the fact that, like, even if George Miller meant it or not, like, he definitely built a society off this character, for sure.
I mean, there's no way he could have meant it, right? Like, he just...
I mean, I'm sure he looked back on it being like, who is this guy? You know what I mean? Like, what can we do with this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why was he covered in, you know, whatever that is. Like
my favorite part from the sequence. What's her name? Augusta? Is that was her
Savannah?
name? Savannah. Sorry,
Savannah Nix.
another Georgia city, Savannah. Like at one point, Mad Max just fucking punches her in the face.
He knocks her out. He knocks her out.
And it's like, what does Max actually want here? Is he fine? Is his plan just to live here until he dies at this point? Like he's just gonna be like, hey, listen, I'm not who you think I am, but at the same time, this place is pretty sweet. Like let's just all chill. Like,
yeah.
What does Max want?
Well, every story choice at this point is very unclear.
That's the most Peter Pan shot of the movie.
When they're walking through.
When they're walking through the desert over the sunlight.
Yeah.
Like that's the most Lost Boys Peter Pan shot of the entire movie.
But what do you think he wants, Stevie? Like what is Max trying to?
That's the issue of this movie.
Because it's not getting his stuff back anymore.
It's not getting his stuff back anymore.
He's
He
just
is
cool.
clearly content with his humanity still. He's not psychotic.
Yeah.
Like
he's not making
he's
a
not
change at all.
he's not Mad Max. He's just Max.
He's not mad in this one.
He's not mad in this one, which is so infuriating because he had every right to go mad. Every single right. He literally caused the death of a brother, you know what I mean, or a son. Like whatever Master Blaster relationship was.
Yeah.
Like definitely caused the death of that, which
He got
should
betrayed.
have caused him to lose his humanity.
He's gotten like
He should have gone all out to bring down the entire system at that point.
he doesn't want vengeance.
I would have like Max
from
should
Bruce
have.
Spence or Tina Turner. Like
Yeah.
one of those two people.
Like he should have gone after Tina Turner with all of his might. That is Max. Like that's a story.
But it's such a weird, like, yeah, his plan is to, like, tenuously rule these children who are by this plane, like, for the rest of his days. Like, he's like, all right, I'm just going to chill here. But for without showing any, like, scene of them bonding or forming a relationship or, like, him being
none of
anything
that.
but annoyed by them. Like, he's only annoyed by them through this whole scene. And
I mean, how could you not be?
by the way, is annoying to watch. Right, yeah. It's not fun to watch someone be annoyed, like annoying people be annoying. Like, it's not.
Well, Pappy, they ain't been slack. Everything mocked, everything membered.
Who are you? What? Stop!
Listen, if you got the juice, you truck with us, Korey.
God. It's just
go ahead, go. Get out of here. Like
this user's knows.
It's just a different movie, right? We fall into a completely different universe at this point.
It's so weird. And it never feels more PG-13 than in this part too, right? Like all of a sudden it's like, who is this for? Like, is this for families? Is this for the same people who would be watching?
When did the Goonies come out? 86, 85?
Yeah, Goonies was 85.
Okay, Goonies 85, so talking about the exact same time. Studios are always mixed up with each other and what they're doing, and they know exactly what they're doing as well. So like, I don't know what the purpose of this kind of Child Society edition was, other than George Miller really wanted to incorporate the Lord of the Flies with it. It's one thing I can think of.
I mean, a kid does die. Like one of the kids who leaves
Finn?
does, die. So there's a little bit of
weight,
stakes, some weight, but then at the same time, it's like, but why are you now going back into Bartertown? Like what is Max just trying to return them to the green place, to the place of abundance, or like what are they trying to do? Like the story makes no sense at this point. Like what is
Max's motivation for anything at this point?
Yeah, where are you trying to go? What are you trying to do? I don't know. It's very odd.
Because I mean, the kind of fundamental story for Max is a wanderer across the wasteland whose sole purpose is to survive, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, what is his purpose? Like, what is his motivation here?
I will say there is some juice. There's some good bones in like the whole concept of. I watched a YouTube video on this. I can say the name. I forget whose channel it was. I can look it up. But he was saying that it's like a cargo cult, which is like a real thing, where in specific countries they're isolated tribes, but at some point like the American military or like Soviet military like interact with them and just like fuck their whole culture up. Like they were just like they literally did like crash a plane or something, or like rolled a tank through, and these people were just like, what the fuck was that.
That's kind of cool.
Like, there's something there with like the plane and like, everything that's happening with like their and like shadows of what society was, but it's not. I don't know. It's just not like fleshed out enough, or like it's almost too much. Like, just give it to me in passing.
Did you hear about the society that had no contact with the outside world until like last year? What happened to them?
No, what happened to them?
They got set up with like Starlink and a bunch of like computers and technology. Porn addicts.
Really?
They found porn and it just ruined their lives.
Well, what they find addictinggames.com, like Flash games, they're going to be. There's so much.
They never hit it. They hit one website and they just said, "All right, that's it."
Matt Draper, by the way, cool YouTube channel. He has a really good video on this movie.
So this group of kids, they call themselves at one point the waiting ones. Or they probably say the waiting ones or something like that. But
the waity tatey extra baties.
They tell Max their story with the expectation for him to reveal that he's their long lost Captain Walker. I've never really understood their story, but I think, like you guys summarized, I think it has to do with like, when things were getting really bad, this guy put a bunch of people, most of them kids, in a plane to try to like fly them to safety somewhere, but the plane went down. A lot of the kids survived, and they ended up kind of forming their own little society and culture here, and basically revolving around like little kids speak and waiting for this savior to show up one day. And they think it's Max, but it's not Max. He kind of breaks it to him pretty hard.
Who's coming? Who's pulling on a leaving?
There ain't gonna be no leavings. All that stuff's just jerking time.
We's working it different.
Ain't you seen nothing? He couldn't catch the wind. There weren't no sky raft, and there ain't gonna be no salvage. This here's on Tomorrow-Morrowland. He's proof of that.
Program. All of your program. If he ain't Captain Walker, who is he? He ain't no different to us, that's who. So he must have slogged it out on foot.
If he can get here, we can get back.
He ain't much bigger than us, like.
Co-pilot did it. So why can't we?
That's the trick of it. Who's coming?
No. Of course for nothing. Don't you remember? When you's finding him, he were half jumped by Mr. Dead.
Nobody's saying it ain't a hard slog. We knows that now. But if we wants the knowing and the doing of things, there ain't no easy ride.
There ain't no knowing and there ain't no doing. There ain't no sky raft and there ain't no Sonic. You slog out there to nothing.
Worse than nothing. The first place you'll find is a sleaze pit called Bartertown. Now, if the Earth doesn't swallow you up first, that place sure as hell will.
So like you guys said, a bunch of the kids take off. They want to go do their own thing. They figure, okay, well, if our whole like religion is basically not true, maybe we can find another place to go and we can like find a society to live in. So they take off. Max goes after them, and things start getting really bad in terms of the story, I think, because this is where you really lose track of like why decisions are being made. So like they see Bartertown, for example, right? They travel far enough to where like it's in the distance. Max says we have to go there. It's like our only chance.
Is it Tomorrow-Morrowland?
No. Bartertown. It's our only chance.
Only chance for what?
For what? Dying?
What I would assume he means by that is like to re-up on supplies, but they don't do that there.
But you just walked here. Yeah.
I mean, like you guys have said, they're like, what's the motivation for a lot of the stuff that's happening right now?
I think there's like one throwaway, possibly ADR, or just like voiceover line where they say like they need the little man. He knows lots of things, but they say it in their stupid speech. Like he knows a lottie extra toddy. Like it's something stupid like that. Like, but so then now it's like a heist movie almost.
He's the one with the knowing.
The knowing.
The knowing.
Oh my god. Yeah. But yeah, like why? If you just walked here, it's nighttime. Just walk back. You've only walked this far. Clearly, you can just walk back. Yeah, just.
You will be okay.
Follow your tracks. Just go the exact same way you came. Go back to the place of abundance. Like that was crazy. We'll never do this again.
Yeah. Hey, gang. It's not that great out there. Let's kind of hold firm here for a while.
Which, by the way, that's the last time we see the green place.
Which is wild.
All those other kids there are just fucked. Like they're just like, they've lost all of their leadership amongst the older kids. Like,
well, they still got Slake back there running the show. You know, the Rufio guy.
Yeah, that's true.
But for some reason, Max and the kids, they break into the underworld portion of Bartertown. And for reasons that are never explained, it quickly turns into like a rescue mission for Master. Pappy, maybe you can tell us about the slapstick comedy that ensues in Underworld.
The family fun hijinks.
Yeah, it is interesting because they show a similar shot from before, where in the beginning of the movie they show this like tube, like exit, like sewer grate basically, and that's the way they're sneaking in. But inexplicably, some of these kids like go on ahead and have like hid themselves amongst the underworld. I mean, it's just like really fucking stupid, silly stuff. Like there's people like swinging on ropes. There's people like hitting each other with shovels.
It's Hook.
Yeah.
We were watching Hook again.
There's like Masters getting like lowered in the pigs, but suffering no visible injuries. It's just kind of like getting spooked and raised back up. Like
he's only to be scared, never harmed.
And even he feels like a totally different character.
Yeah, he's like costume has totally changed, and now he just looks like a feeble old man. Like it's, I don't know, like why not keep him looking cool? Like why couldn't he be Master still? He's not innocent, right? Like the way he treated Blaster was pretty fucked up. Like he kind of deserves everything that's happening to him at this point. I don't know why he's such a good guy now.
Stevie, there's a character in this movie named Iron Bar that we see in this scene, and we've seen earlier. He's like a little guy. He goes by the name of, in real life, Angry Anderson. He's like in an Australian band called Rose Tattoo. He's like a rock star kind of guy of Australia. So Angry Anderson as Iron Bar here, he's like the main henchman for Auntie, right? And he has a very specific look, right? He has like a bald head, and he has like this like geisha doll hanging off his back, right?
Yeah, it kind of looks like an Aztec warrior at some points. Yeah.
I think of this guy with long hair, even though he definitely doesn't have long hair. It's because the doll behind his head is long hair. Yeah. But we see a lot of fake out deaths with this guy, right? It's very like Looney Tunes.
It never ends. Like you bring up Looney Tunes, right? When we get like into the big chase of it, like his whole arc is Looney Tunes last 10 minutes. It's insane. If you would have told me people at Acme wrote his death scene, I would not have been shocked. It's almost like Wile E. Coyote at a certain point, right?
He's getting dunked in poop.
He's getting dunked in poop.
But he's fine.
He's fine. Like he does like the
he gets blown
the
up
shredder hand up through the poop.
Yeah.
Like cool, I guess.
He literally gets like, it's like he gets caught holding a dynamite, it explodes, and it's like in blackface then, like with his eyes blinking like pink, pink,
Acme!
pink. Yeah.
Acme! It's exactly what happens to Wile E. Coyote. It's like the blink blink.
He's a really bad mini boss. And I forget when we were talking about mini bosses recently, like there's some really good ones in movies, but
there's some amazing ones in movies.
He's got no personality. He's got no like defining features. I don't think he even talks. Like the only thing that makes him special is the stupid doll that he has behind his head, which is cool.
Yeah.
At one point, he's even like driving one of those little like pump, like
the hand car, the train track hand car, like, pumping it real fast.
Yeah, so fake. It looks so stupid and silly. Like that feels like a Looney Tunes thing. Like those hand cars.
Is he the one that has the jump scare in the boxcar?
I think so.
Yeah, and then we do the whole holding onto the side of the train, like and going over one.
Yeah.
Kid taking a chainsaw to a pipe like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, it gets a little cartoonish here at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But this also, it's weird. The first 40 minutes of this movie feel a lot like a Mad Max movie. The last 10 to 15 minutes feel almost like Fury Road.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see where Fury Road came from out of this movie. You can just see it.
Oh, right, yeah.
It feels like Fury Road through and through. And then everything in between was not.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll come back to that thought about this feeling like Fury Road because it way does, and even like Furiosa, like this whole part feels so much like those two movies, the very end. But even just to go back to Iron Bar, if we get one scene, like one more scene of the Thunderdome, like maybe Max is like poking around when he first gets there, and we see some kind of like other competition, right, where they're fighting with like slingshots or like sabers or like anything else in the Thunderdome, like. And we establish this guy's power level somewhat, and he like brutally kills somebody, which again, we can't be PG-13 anymore. But
Yeah.
that would have done so much. Like, I know nothing about Iron Bar, you know, and it's like the movie expects me to start caring about him just because he's got the
dude.
strangest plot armor.
He was like Austin Butler in Dune Part 2, right? In the Thunderdome, and like Mad Max caught a glimpse of him just like wrecking 3 guys or something. If that was kind of like more of the closing Thunderdome fight, if there was another one, it would be good because there's no clear weakness to this dude, right? Like he kind of got by against Blaster because he eventually exploited his weakness. But now he's just got to fight someone who's like his match. That would be fucking sick. And that could be Iron Bar, but instead they turn him into a cartoon. Especially on this chase scene, which, you know, they're in the underworld. They escape underworld, Max and his crew, along with Pig Killer and Master.
I like Pig Killer.
I do too.
He looks like Shea Wiggum.
They escape through this, it's like a train car hybrid, and it kind of takes us to a vehicle chase scene.
The train car hybrid thing looks cool. I'll give
does.
this movie that. Like, not a lot of trains, I don't think, in the Mad Max universe.
There he is.
That we see, but I don't... we just saw the scene where he's on the pump car thing. It looks so stupid.
It looks ridiculous.
But I like the big train car contraption, and like even like the interior of it, where it feels like almost like a treehouse at times. Like it's, I don't know. We're kind of getting back to shit I like. Like,
Can we talk about something where you just lose me?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I understand that like his right arm got taken away in the beginning.
His weapons, like, you mean like figuratively? Yeah.
We're on this boxcar. We're getting back to like what Mad Max is to a degree. Like great camera work, great stunts, like everything fantastic across the board. You're telling me you're not gonna have Max pull out his sawed off in this scene? Buddy,
that would be nice.
You gotta give him his right arm back. If you're gonna take it away, let him earn his right arm back. You just have to do that.
He was in Bartertown, bro.
Yes, you gotta,
exactly.
You gotta give him his right arm back.
You're
which is
in
that
Bartertown.
Sawed-off shotgun.
The train starts to pull away. He goes, "Hold on a second," and he goes and grabs.
And you have this
sawed-off.
great zoom-in scene of.
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
And now we're back.
Like Max is back.
Like, you know, listen, sorry we got a little weird there for about 40 minutes of this movie, but don't.
It's like you gave Max a frying pan.
Yeah.
Like, dude, you gave Max a frying pan. This is just
Dude, someone hits a guy with the frying pan, and his teeth are knocked out. And he smiles.
And he does like the Tweety Bird, like knocked unconscious thing. Like,
this isn't the Honeymooners. This is Mad Max.
This is Mad Max.
Yeah.
Like, you have an opportunity to give him his right arm back. You got to give it back.
Yeah.
This is just so ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the vehicles are cool. Stunt work is awesome. It's just so weird not to have that.
Yeah.
The kids in the train car, kind of before things go crazy, are like exploring like pre-apocalyptic technology. And like they've had this thing where they've been trying to get Sonic to work, which they don't really know what that is, but they have this old fucked up record, and they finally find a record player and they get to play it, and they get like a taste, right, of like something they've been searching for. So there is a little bit of satisfaction for them, not for me as the viewer, but I guess for them as the characters.
It's fucking Muzzy. It's Je suis l'enjouvi. Yes, that's French they're speaking, but these kids aren't French. They're American.
They're Australian. Shit.
Yeah, Australian, yeah.
Welcome. Open your book at page 1. Now repeat after me. Bonjour.
Bonjour. Bonjour.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Où allez-vous?
Où allez-vous?
Where are you going?
Where are you going?
Je vais chez moi.
Je vais chez moi.
I'm going home.
I'm going home.
I'm going home.
Je suis la jeune fille.
Yeah, they find the Muzzy tape in there. That's fucking hilarious, dude. And then Master changes into a little suit. He's got a little professor outfit going on. He's like a fucking Hogwarts teacher now.
Why does he change?
Why does he change? When does he have time to change?
Why do they have his size clothes?
Like, quick, put on your finest suit.
Put on your Sunday best. We got a chase scene.
Dude, there's a moment in this chase scene when Max tucks that little fucker under his arm and just does a leap from one train to the next car over. He's like a football player, dude. It's
Yeah.
hilarious.
It's pretty bad, dude. It's like he's not even a human anymore. He's a MacGuffin. 'Cause that's
He's the suitcase of gold.
yeah.
There's no reason for them to even want him, right? I guess it's just Max being a hero, but like, why is he a hero now? You know, how did he get there, right? Because he was just a guy that was hired to kill someone at the beginning of the movie to get his stuff back.
Yeah, and presumably they would stop chasing him if they would give Tina Turner Master back. Like that's the whole reason they're initiating this chase is like, well, we don't know how to run these pipes or rebuild without Master, which again has done nothing to redeem himself because it's almost worse that he knew that Blaster had the mind of a child and he still exploited his strength. And
That's
like,
true.
It's like, this dude's a psychopath. This dude's the actual villain. He's worse than Auntie. Auntie ends up being like kind of like redeemed at the end of the movie. Nothing redeems Master. He's just a piece of shit. Like,
Why does he get the benefit of going to Sydney?
why does Max? Yeah, why does Max care about him? Like,
Literally hopping from train to train with the small child.
the one thing that we know about Master is he exploits people with the mind of a child, and Max is going to send him with a bunch of children
To rebuild society.
Yeah, like, what? Why?
Oh my god.
What are you hoping
Oh,
to
no.
accomplish?
That's gonna get real weird. I don't like it.
Yee.
He's gonna be the new Auntie, essentially, right? He's gonna position himself as the leader.
Yeah. Can I say though, one very cool thing from this chase, which feels very Mad Max, is the cowboy car that's in like all leather basically, and it looks like a cattle, and the guy driving it has like a leather cowboy hat, and it's like black and white, like totally random, not explained. You would just assume that that person had that on hand, or they found some eccentric rancher's car. Like, I love that shit. Like, that's Mad Max to me.
The vehicles here are great, right? In classic
Yes.
Mad Max fashion, you got these post-apocalyptic vehicles that are like strung together. You know, people built these cars just like someone built Bartertown. And I think all of that is fucking fantastic. That's some of the best stuff about the series as a whole is just like the vehicles, the props, the locations. And this action scene, I think, has shades of greatness because of that. But I don't think this is a great action scene. It's too silly at times. It just doesn't take itself very seriously. And especially coming off of Road Warrior, where that ending action scene is like so brutal and harsh. And this one is like, you know, again, you clobber someone with a frying pan and then their teeth fall out and they smile. And then they pass out. It's
Yeah.
I don't like that kind of thing, man. It's like the movie's getting stupider and stupider as it goes, but trying to still be a Mad Max movie. It's kind of like a Mad Max parody, though.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of is.
Yeah. The one thing I was gonna say too, Steve, when you said this feels like Fury Road, or I just
Shades
rewatched,
of it.
I just rewatched Furiosa, and there is the concept of like the Fury Road being ostensibly a train track, right? Like it's like a one-way road that you go straight down, and like the scenes where you have people trying to like break onto that semi or what do they call it? The thing that they're
The
driving?
rig?
The
War
rig,
rig?
the
Yeah.
war rig. Yeah, that feels like what's happening here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's really weird too with like the War Boy that we mentioned earlier, and just like the way that this set piece feels. Like this set piece feels like in Furiosa when she's like underneath the war rig
Mhm.
in that whole sequence. Like,
Yeah.
it's very similar, like, but worse and dumber and cheesier and not good.
Yeah, like I said though, I mean, this all could have been, I think, Korey said there's like good parts of it, but it's not a great part. Like, I mean, we're in Bartertown, right?
Yeah.
Let Max have it. Like, let him have it, man.
Yeah.
Like, in a lot of Mad Max movies, like, whatever is his, he wants back.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and the fact that he can just, like, overlook something like this is kind of insane to me.
Get one camel even.
Get one camel, get your
Yeah.
vehicle back, or get your shotgun back. One of them.
Dude, he doesn't have a car. That does kind of fucking suck. Like, where's his car?
Which is fine. Like, I mean, they did the same thing in Fury Road, like, when they, like, destroyed the Interceptor, right? Like...
But he has it at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like his car gets really quickly taken away from him very often. Despite it being one of the all-time, like, iconic movie cars.
Oh, it's so cool. Yeah.
Have him get it in this one. Have him end it.
Have him end it with the interceptor.
Like he gets the interceptor, yeah. Like, and then it's like, what is this timeline actually?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's one thing I always thought was kind of cool with Max. Is he's always getting his right arm taken away, but in most times we see it back. Like within every Mad Max movie, the part of him is back, and like I said, like the stunts and the sequences are pretty cool, but like you have like children and adults hitting people with frying pans, doing the Tweety Bird like concussion thing. Like it's just very odd.
An Iron Bar just not dying, no matter what happens
not dying.
to him.
But like I mean, you have jet engines in the back of these cars. Like it looks dope.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have plane engines and stuff like that. You have Tina Turner.
Dude, Tina Turner's out there driving a car.
Driving
That's
a
sick.
car, just I mean, it looks so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of, like I said, 45 minutes of this movie are just fantastic, and then an hour isn't. And it's hard to get over that hour of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, you know, this eventually takes them to kind of, like, separate from their pursuance. The crew of Max and, like, the kids he's with and Master, they make their way to the end of this track because, of course, you know, in this post-apocalyptic era, this train track is not going to go on and on. So they're stopped at the end of it by Jedediah Jr.
You?
Me?
You. It's your lucky day.
It is?
Uh-huh. You got a plane.
I have?
Didn't I just save your life?
Joel?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's got like this like safari getup on, and we hadn't seen him since the beginning of the movie. And listen, there is something like nice about the story. You can call it what you will, falling back on itself. The themes. These kids have all been obsessed with like being able to fly away. They got there on a plane. We're seeing the plane from the beginning of the movie. You know, not clear what Max wants, or even in a vacuum of this movie, like who Max is. Like he's a really nice guy. Like he does no ill will towards Jedediah, Bruce Spence, Gyrocopter's twin brother, for fucking up,
brothers.
yeah,
Twin
for
scumbag
fucking up
brothers.
his life for like the last week or whatever it's been. Like he's just like, listen, we need your plane. You can stay with these kids too, even though you seem like a horrible, evil person, like everybody else who we've encountered. But Korey, there's some like confusing things with how are these kids riding on this plane? Like, are they like holding on the wing, but then they're not at another point? It's very odd.
You can tell, like, they just want to wrap this shit up, right? Like, it's...
Yeah.
Like, the ending of this is so convoluted. And the thing about this movie is, like, I dare anyone who hasn't seen this movie in years to try to remember exactly what happens after the first hour mark, and especially with this last action sequence, because it is so hard. If it's not fresh in your mind, you will not remember these kinds of details.
Mm-hmm.
But there's kind of like a self-sacrifice of Max happening here, right?
Yeah. There's a weight issue with the plane, and again, there's like these kids are bouncing all over the plane. They're very clearly like holding on the wing in one scene, and then at one point the plane's like doing a barrel roll, and there's no kids on the wing, so it's very, very weird and confusing. But Max, after shedding all the excess cargo, takes a car and crashes it into the oncoming, cavalry from Bartertown.
How is he not dead again?
To buy them time. Yeah, and he crashes the car into Iron Bar, who still is alive somehow, and the last thing we see of him is like basically a pun again, like flipping off Max, or flipping off the plane. Like, it's so dumb, it's so bad. But Max is like caught here. I remember checking the time because I didn't remember how it ended. I'm like, how can this possibly satisfyingly like wrap up in 4 minutes? Because this is the end of the movie, like, and Max is being kidnapped in this part.
Yeah, they got him dead to rights, So he's down there, the plane is taken off, everyone else but Max is saved, but Max is surrounded, guns trained on him, and without shooting him, Tina Turner basically kind of just says, "Ain't we a pair, Raggedy Man?" and then walks away.
Ain't we a pair? Yeah.
Well, Ain't we a pair? Raggedy Man. Goodbye, soldier.
What does this mean, Stevie?
Well, actually kind of makes sense within the kind of realm of her codes. I think she's a person of honor. So she kind of left it as, you accomplished your shit, I didn't, see ya.
She has no reason to murder.
She has no reason to kill Max. He accomplished what he was out to do. He did it. And she's like, I'm going to go back to my town, I'm going to run it.
Which is odd, though, because the whole central conflict of this movie is her wanting to murder an ostensibly innocent, mentally handicapped person. But now she's like, well, killing you serves me no purpose, so
yeah,
not worth it.
So it's kind of like a nod and a touche moment from her. It's like,
yeah,
you did good, man. I got places to be. I'll see you later.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, if you're going to have someone like a Tina Turner be a villain in a movie like this, you kind of have to do it that way, right? You can't really show Tina Turner dying on screen.
No.
Especially in 1985. You just can't.
And I know I'm like being harsh on it, but it's kind of cool that it's like this, the wasteland is a land of like moral ambiguity, right? Like Max is just kind of like this force of nature who comes in and tries to, like, for the most part in this movie, accomplish goals that are right in front of him.
Miniature. Love a good miniature.
Yeah, the Sydney scene.
Oh, I love a good miniature.
But it's like, I don't know. Even though he's this force of nature, like, neither the master nor Auntie are good people. He's just trying to, like, navigate it and building his legend by being a force of nature in their conflict.
Yeah. Which I'll say this, like, Mad Max, I mean, it kind of ties into a few things. Adam Sandler and Disney never made a bad movie in Hawaii. Mad Max has yet to have a stupid villain.
Who's the villain in the first one?
Toe Cutter. Awesome villain.
I think Toe Cutter is the exception. I will say. Doesn't he, like, steal a kid's ice cream cone or some shit? Like, he, like...
I'll give that a little more leeway just for the fact of the budget it was made on. Like, I'll give it a little bit more than that, but, like, as far as, like, Mad Max 2, even Thunderdome, Furiosa, Fury Road, all have amazing villains.
Furiosa's got an amazing villain.
Two amazing villains.
And, like, the same, like, moral ambiguity of, like, kind of two bad people kind of.
Two bad people going at it. And, like, Tina Turner, like, as much as I don't like this movie, like, in a vacuum of Mad Max, I love Tina Turner in this movie. I think she's what makes Mad Max great. Yeah. She is fantastic in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I think the first one was more of just, like, it was a movie made to kind of get away with making these awesome car action scenes. You can tell that was really the goal of that first movie, was having some great car crashes. And, like, the way they filmed that is, like, really cool. Like, they didn't get permits for shit and they were just, like, smashing stuff. And, like, you gotta respect that, like, guerrilla level indie filmmaking. There's something cool about it. Especially considering, like, what it became. You know, Fury Road was a huge movie. It was huge in its, like, I don't just mean, like, money and respect, but, like, it's widely known in a way that the first Mad Max movie wasn't. So I'm glad that George Miller got there, right? And he got to kind of, like, see a vision come to fruition in that way.
Like, and think of it this way, too. I mean, George Miller had every right just to, like, kind of die on Thunderdome, saying that was that, right?
Dude, that's a huge ... to go from Thunderdome to Fury Road.
One of the greatest action movies ever made.
Like, the whole, like, everything about it, like, the color grading changes, the tone changes, the characters
People forget
change,
about
the actors
this.
change.
Thunderdome came before Fury Road.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about 30 years in between. Going from Thunderdome to Fury Road is just an insane accomplishment.
And just for someone to be like, you know what, George, we're gonna give you the keys to the car again. Like,
let's see
it.
what happens. And he made what I consider the greatest action movie ever made.
Thunderdome?
No, Fury Road.
Oh, right.
No.
Well, speaking of Thunderdome, it does end here, and this is actually one of the things I do like about this movie, is the closing narration, but only because of, like, how it plays into the lore of Mad Max, as, like, this is a story that was told about him, right, from some people that encountered him, and that's the way it ends with Savannah basically saying like, we found this place and that was the guy that helped us get here. And now we kind of have a mini society in the ruins of Sydney, it seems. But, just like the second one and like Fury Road, I feel like they're all stories told about Max from someone else, right? The second one is the dog boy telling his story. That's kind of like, that whole movie is what he knows about Mad Max, and some of it might be true, some of it not. Furiosa, I think, is telling the story of Max and Fury Road. So I do kind of like the lore of this.
This you know, the years travel fast, and time after time I done the tell. But this ain't one body's tell, it's the tell of us all. And you gotta listen it and remember, 'cause what you hears today, you gotta tell the newborn tomorrow. I was looking behind us now, into history back. I sees those of us that got the luck and started the haul for home. And I remembers how it led us here and how we was heartful 'cause we seen what there once was. One look and we knew we'd got it straight. Those what had gone before had the knowing and the doing of things beyond our reckoning, even beyond our dreaming. Time counts and keeps counting. And we knows now, finding the trick of what's been and lost ain't no easy ride. But that's our track. We gotta travel it, and there ain't nobody knows where it's gonna lead. Still and all, every night we does the tell, so that we remember who we was and where we came from. But most of all, we remembers the man who finded us, him that came the salvage. And we lights the city, not just for him, but for all of them that are still out there. 'Cause we knows there'll come a night when they sees the distant light, and they'll be coming home.
What's your theory on that?
My theory is always the feral child was Max in Fury Road.
Oh, because he has the boomerang?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it looks like he's carrying it during Fury Road in the nighttime scenes with the bullet farmer. Yeah.
I do like that idea, but I think it's not canonical, kind of like my Warboy theory, but it is kind of cool.
Oh, yeah. It's just fun to kind of like throw those things around.
So that's it for Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Do you guys have any final thoughts before we get into ratings?
I know I talk about this every time we do one of his movies, but George Miller is such an interesting cat. Like, he really is, dude. Like, Korey, are you familiar with his career in between Fury Road and this? Like, because I wasn't super, but it's like, it's a Happy Feet and Babe 2 Pig in the Big City, right? Like, he hasn't made a ton of movies, you know?
He seems to be very selective, but yes, I do know those movies. I haven't seen them in a long time.
And it's like, I don't know, watching these movies, like Fury Road, Road Warrior, Thunderdome, I haven't seen the first one. I don't really have a burning desire to, because I've heard it's okay, but I just like how George Miller likes what he fucking likes. You know, he likes car chase sequences, he likes a mysterious main character, you know, it's just, I don't know. Despite this movie's shortcomings, there's still like those pieces of the franchise and the universe that ring true, and not like I'll say it again, not like oh, this is how Han Solo got his name type way, in a like, oh, that looks like a war boy type way, you know?
Yeah,
I
right.
like that. I like that a lot.
Well, let's get into ratings. Stevie, on any rating scale you want, what are you going to give Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome?
Ooh, man. I love this series more than you guys will ever know. I talk about it endlessly. I will give this 6.9 spins of the wheels because we broke the deals.
Bust the deal, face the wheel.
Yeah, I feel like 6.9 faces of the wheel. I feel like this movie has a lot that I love about the Mad Max universe and a lot that I wish to forget. Those first 40 minutes, man, are just, even if like anyone listening hasn't seen Thunderdome, watch it for the first 40 to 45 minutes. It is everything that is great about the Mad Max franchise, and the last 60 to 65 is a lot we can forget about it. But those first 40, they carry a lot of weight for me, man. I just think it's fun to watch. Tina Turner is just absolutely amazing in this movie. The worlds that we get in the underworld and Bartertown are awesome. Some great set pieces, great choreography in those first 40. And I know that, the last chase sequence isn't up there with, Mad Max 2 or even, not even close to Fury Road, but like we kind of see glimpses of what George could do in the 30 years from then. So I'll give this a 6.9. It's a yes for me in the spoilers rating, but yeah, there's a lot that I don't love, especially with the Lost Boys kind of Lord of the Flies aspects. But those first 40, God, they're fun to watch.
Thank you, Stevie. I'm going to go next. I'm going to give this one 4 out of 10 pig shits. Yeah. I think the movie is pretty good, maybe really good, until it isn't, and that is such a damn shame. I watched this movie a lot as a kid, and I watched it because that beginning sequence, and like I said, I can't remember much after that. You have to really be fresh off watching it to remember what happens from the bad part until the end. And that's kind of sad. But like I said a moment ago, I really do like the idea of the legend of Mad Max, and this is this particular story. Who knows kind of when it takes place? This is this story. Who knows when that takes place? Mm-hmm. There's little stuff about this movie that's great. The way Bartertown looks, the way the people within it look, so much care put into that. When I was a kid, one thing that really bothered me was Mad Max's Raggedy Man hair up until it gets cut. I just hated the fact that he had this long, stupid hair. Right? Of course he would. He's out there on his own, but he looks pretty silly with that haircut for a while. The movie is a weird entry into the Mad Max franchise, especially for people that have only seen Fury Road. You got to consider those people, right? And they might say, "What other Mad Max movies?"
Fury Road?
Oh yeah, dude. There's a lot of them, right? People that have seen that Mad Max movie only.
I hope not. Road Warrior, Mad Max, he was awesome.
And the question becomes, right, what other Mad Max movies do I watch? And my answer has always been the second one and half of the third one. I think that's the only appropriate answer, because I don't want someone to come away from this not liking Mad Max anymore, especially for someone that respects Fury Road. Weird stuff with the child speak, weird Lost Boy stuff, but, it is what it is. Pappy, over to you on any rating scale you want.
I'm going to give this 5 Tina Turners out of 10. Be right between you guys. I don't know if I mentioned this. I really like Tina Turner in this movie, guys. I think
she's smoking hot.
I think I could have a big Tina Turner poster on my dorm wall in college. And
yeah, we talked about this earlier.
Be pretty happy. What's love got to do with it? Listen, it's fun to conceptualize Mad Max as reading about some Greek hero like Achilles, or where there's all these legends of, he cut off fucking Medusa's head and then he fought the Trojans or whatever. You know what I mean? All of these weird, disjointed stories of this beyond human mythical figure. But this would be one of the stories or the chapters in that storybook I would skip. I wouldn't read this one. It's a shame. I would probably give it a no in the spoilers rating, and at 5 out of 10, it's right there on the border. But that middle part is just not good, and it's also boring and grating. At least 50% of this movie I don't enjoy hearing, seeing, thinking about,
retelling, reliving
at all. And the opening sequence is good. Don't get me wrong, we sucked its dick pretty hard. It is really good, but I would rather watch any 40 minutes of Fury Road than the opening sequence of Thunderdome. And I know that's harsh to say, but literally just randomize 40 minutes. It doesn't even have to be a consecutive 40 minutes of Fury Road. 40 random minutes of Fury Road I would rather watch even than the intro of this, because I know where it's going and it's not going to have any kind of satisfying conclusion. And it's, outside of some of the creativity with the production design, like Korey mentioned, and just the American Gladiator bungee fight, which is so cool.
So good.
And so fun to think about. I think there was an American Gladiator game where they were bungeeing and like trying to put balls in like containers or something. Like, I don't know, but it's got to be a no, ultimately, on the spoiler scale. 5 Tina Turners out of 10. I will probably never, ever watch this again because there's now 4. We count 2 Furiosa, Fury Road. You know, there's at least 3 or 4 Mad Max movies that are fucking action classics, and this ain't one of them. So
This ain't one of them, fam.
it's not going to be in my rotation.
I have a question for you guys. So, Wasteland, if George Miller gets the keys to the kingdom one last time, would you want to see any aspect of Thunderdome in that?
The dome.
Would you want to bring back the dome?
Yes.
For the Wasteland, would you want to bring back the dome?
The dome works, doesn't it?
I think the dome works, man.
It doesn't even have to be a central part of the movie. Like, he just rolls up in some city and they have a dome.
They have a dome,
and they're
you
bungee
see
fighting. Yeah.
how cool it could be.
Yeah. Bring it back. Tina Turner's still alive. Bring it
I like the
back.
idea of him passing by Thunderdome and people are like fighting to the death in it
You just see how cool it could be.
in a more rated R way.
Yeah. I think bring back the dome, even if it's for 5-10 minutes, just bring it back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. And I really hope we do get to see a Mad Max solo movie again. I don't know if we will, but I do want to see like what's the next singular chapter of Mad Max's story that's not connected to any of these in a direct way. And you know, I talked about this on our Furiosa pod over at the Spoiler Show, but I did not want a Furiosa movie. I wanted another Mad Max movie that's, you know, in a different place with different people with different setting. And I still am holding out hope that we'll get that someday, but I don't know if we will.
I think we will. I think Wasteland's pre-production's probably started at this point.
It may not be from George, but we probably will.
Yeah, we probably will at some point.
So what, we're going to get the Joel Schumacher? I guess he's not around anymore.
That would be the Thunderdome. That's the version we got.
Pappy, you have a podcast over here with Stevie called Spoilers. Why don't you tell the listeners about that and where they can find you?
You're on it too. All of us are on Spoilers. And I think on our Patreon, some of us, I don't remember who, but we did a Fury Road episode. We have a Furiosa. The first episode, which isn't available anywhere anymore, was the Road Warrior. So Mad Max runs deep over there. But kind of similar format to Big Dumb Movie. We'd spoil old movies. Occasionally, some new ones, mix it up with some other things. So you'll hear these hosts, some of their voices you've heard on this channel. So make sure you're subscribed to both. If you're subscribed to Spoilers, or you found this Big Dumb Movie by randomly, make sure you're subscribed there, and vice versa. Like, it does help. And please like, review, comment, however, if you made it this far in the episode, show us a little love. Show Korey some love.
Thank you guys very much for being here. I had a blast with you, Pappy and Stevie. For you, the listeners, know that this be the tale of what came before. We say bye-de-bye to those with the knowing and those who find it us. Give a thumbs up to our YouTube video. And remember, leave a positive rating on Apple Podcasts, because what you hears today, you got to tell the newborn tomorrow into history's back. We's heartful to those that listen to it, and we's ready now. Take us home.